The moment I heard the knock at the door, I thought it was the florist running late. I was standing in the middle of our living room in a pale yellow dress I'd bought 3 weeks earlier, the one my husband said made me look like sunlight. Streamers were still being taped to the wall. My best friend was arranging cupcakes on a tiered stand. My mother-in-law was fussing with the centerpiece on the dining table, moving it 2 inches left, then 2 inches right, then back again. Everything smelled like vanilla and fresh flowers, and for the first time in 4 years, I wasn't scared. 4 years. That's how long it took us to get here. 4 years of temperature charts and timed appointments and driving home from clinics in silence because there was nothing left to say that we hadn't already said. 4 years of watching my husband sit on the edge of the bed after every negative result, not crying, just very still, the way people get still when they're trying not to fall apart in front of you. 4 years of him squeezing my hand in waiting rooms and saying, "Whatever happens, we're okay," and meaning it. We were okay. Even when it was brutal, we were okay. So when the test finally showed 2 lines, when I sat on the bathroom floor at 6 in the morning, shaking so hard I dropped my phone twice, the first person I called was him. Not my mom, not my best friend, him. He cried. He actually cried, which he almost never does, and he kept saying, "Are you sure? Can you take another one?" And I was laughing and crying at the same time, sitting on the cold tile floor. And I thought, this is what we built. This right here. The baby shower was his idea, actually. I'm not someone who needs a party. But he said, "You waited long enough to celebrate something. Let people celebrate with you." So we planned it. Small, close friends and family. Our apartment decorated in yellow and white because we didn't know the gender yet. And I liked the idea of something neutral and bright. 23 weeks along, everything was going perfectly. So when I heard the knock, I really did think it was the florist. My best friend opened the door. The woman standing there was pregnant. Visibly, significantly pregnant, further along than me by the look of it. She was wearing a navy dress and her dark hair was pulled back and she was smiling. This small, composed smile, like she had every reason to be there. I didn't recognize her. I looked at my best friend. My best friend looked at me. "Can I help you?" my friend asked. The woman looked past her. She looked directly at me across the room, past the streamers and the cupcake tower and my mother-in-law's centerpiece, and she said, "I'm looking for Grant. My husband's name is Grant." I felt something shift in my chest. Not panic. Not yet. Just that particular stillness that happens when your body clocks something wrong before your brain does. "He's not here right now," I said. My voice came out steady. I was proud of that. He stepped out to pick up the cake. "Can I ask who you are?" She smiled again, still calm, still composed. "I'm his girlfriend," she said. "We've been together for almost 2 years." No one in the room said anything. I heard my mother-in-law set something down on the table behind me. I heard my friend exhale. Outside, a car went by, music thumping, completely indifferent to what was happening in our living room. 2 years. Grant and I had been married for 3. "I think you have the wrong person," I said. "Grant Hollenbeck?" she said. "Tall, dark hair, works in commercial real estate. He has a scar on his left forearm from a camping accident when he was 19. She said it like a test, like she was reading from a list of credentials she'd prepared. My mouth went dry. Because yes, that was my husband. That was exactly my husband, including the scar. Everyone in the room was looking at me now. My friend, my mother-in-law, the 3 other women who had shown up early to help set up. All of them waiting to see what I would do. And I felt it then, that horrible stomach-dropping pull of doubt. Not because I believed her, but because she was standing there so certain, so composed, so specifically detailed, and I was 23 weeks pregnant at my own baby shower, and the ground felt like it was tilting. She stepped inside. No one stopped her. I don't know why none of us stopped her. Shock, maybe, or the paralysis that comes with not knowing the rules for a situation you've never had to imagine. She looked around the room slowly. She took in the decorations, a banner that said, "Little one coming soon," the photos of Grant and me on the side table, our wedding photo, our anniversary trip to Vermont, a candid someone took of us in the kitchen last Thanksgiving. She looked at the wedding photo for a long moment. Then she looked at me. "How long have you two been married?" she asked. Genuinely, it seemed, like she was asking for a reason. 3 years, I said. Something moved across her face. I couldn't name it. "He told me he was divorced," she said quietly. And for just a second, 1 second, she didn't look certain. She looked like someone who had also just had the ground tilt under them. But I wasn't ready to feel sympathy. I wasn't there yet. "I need you to leave," I said. "I'm not trying to cause problems." Her voice was still calm, but something in it had changed. "I genuinely didn't know. I swear I didn't know. But I need to talk to him. I'm 31 weeks pregnant and I need to talk to him, and his phone keeps going to voicemail and I didn't know where else." "You need to leave," I said again. She left her number on the back of a receipt she pulled from her purse. She set it on the table next to the cupcakes. Then she left. The door closed. Nobody moved. My mother-in-law said, "Sweetheart, don't." I said, not meanly, just, "Don't. Not yet." I needed 1 minute where no one said anything at all. I picked up the receipt. I looked at the name she'd written above her number. Tamsin. I'd never heard Grant mention a Tamsin. In 3 years of marriage, 4 years of being together before that, 7 years total. Not once. He pulled up 20 minutes later with the cake box balanced in both arms, calling out from the doorway, "Someone help me. This thing is enormous." And then he stopped. He stopped because the room was silent and no one came to help him, and I was standing in the middle of the living room holding a receipt. "What happened?" he said. I told him, plainly, without drama, because I was so far past drama at that point that I'd come out the other side into something colder and quieter. I told him a woman named Tamsin had come to our door. Pregnant. Said she'd been with him for 2 years. Said he told her he was divorced. I watched his face. I have spent 7 years learning my husband's face. The way his jaw shifts when he's annoyed. The way his eyes go slightly unfocused when he's thinking hard. The way he looks when he's about to say something difficult, versus the way he looks when he's caught. He looked confused, and then horrified, and then something I can only describe as sickened. "Tamsin," he repeated. "You know her. She was." He set the cake down on the nearest flat surface. His hands were shaking slightly. "She's a client. Was a client. About 18 months ago. We worked together on a property sale. It was a 3-month process. Nothing. I swear to you, nothing happened." "I don't understand." "She knew about your scar," I said. "Anyone who's ever seen me in short sleeves knows about my scar. She said you told her you were divorced." "I have never." He stopped. Something shifted in his expression. "Wait." He sat down. "My colleague," he said slowly. "Tyler, he's been..." He pressed both hands over his face. "Tyler has been using my name." I stared at him. "He's done it before," Grant said. He looked genuinely sick. 2 years ago, there was an incident with a client and he gave my name instead of his, and it got me hauled into an HR meeting, and I thought it was resolved. I thought he'd stopped. He was warned." I said nothing. "I know how this sounds," he said. "It sounds insane." I said, "I know. It sounds exactly like what someone would say when they were caught." "I know." He looked at me. Really looked at me. Not panicked, not defensive, just steady. "I know that, and I can't prove it to you standing here. But you know me. You know me." And that was the thing. That was the exact thing I'd been sitting with for the 20 minutes before he walked through the door. Did I know him? 7 years. 1,000 ordinary evenings. The way he reads articles out loud to me, even when I'm clearly not listening because he just wants to share whatever he found interesting. The way he drives 10 minutes out of the way to avoid a particular intersection because I mentioned once, years ago, that I find heavy traffic stressful. The way he held my hand through every single one of those clinic waiting rooms without making me feel like a burden or a project or a broken thing to be fixed. I knew him. But knowing someone and being certain are different things, and she had been so specific. "Tell me something," I said. "Anything, Tyler. Your colleague. What does he drive?" Grant frowned. "A black Audi." "Why?" "What did he do for his birthday last year?" "Rented out a bar in Midtown." Spent about $3,000. He definitely doesn't have. Why are you? Does he have a membership at that gym on Callaway Street? The one near your office? Yeah, since forever. He's always trying to get me to go with him. Grant paused. Why are you asking about Tyler? I'm not, I said. I'm asking about you. He didn't understand yet. Tell me, I said, what you did last Thursday evening, specifically. He didn't hesitate. I came home late because of the Henderson closing. Traffic was terrible. I picked up Thai food from that place on Mercer because you'd mentioned in the morning you were craving Pad See. Ew. I got home around 8. You were watching that documentary about the woman who faked her entire identity. We ate on the couch. You fell asleep before it ended, and I carried you to bed. He paused. You said I was showing off. I had said that. I had absolutely said that. He hadn't Googled it. He hadn't paused to construct a timeline. It had come out of him the way real things do, in texture and detail, and the small, specific warmth of something actually lived. I called Tamsin. She answered on the second ring, like she'd been waiting. I put her on speaker. Grant sat across from me at the kitchen table. I asked her to tell me about last Thursday evening. What the man she knew as Grant had done. She was quiet for a moment. Then she said he'd texted her around 6 saying he was stuck in a meeting, that he'd come by around 9, that he'd stayed for about an hour. What does he drive? I asked. A black Audi, she said. I looked at my husband. His face had gone perfectly still. What does the scar on his forearm look like? I asked her. The camping accident one. It's thin, she said. Sort of diagonal. About 2 inches long on the outer arm. Grant pushed up his sleeve. His scar is on the inner arm. Thick, not thin. Horizontal, not diagonal. The result of a fence he walked into in the dark. Not a camping accident at all. He doesn't camp, has never camped, finds the entire concept baffling. Thank you, I said to Tamsin. I need to ask you one more thing. Okay. The man you've been seeing, has he ever been to your place on a Thursday evening and ordered food? What does he always get? A pause. Spicy tuna rolls. Every time. He's obsessed. Grant is allergic to fish. I'm not being metaphorical. He carries an EpiPen. Tamsin, I said, I don't think you've been seeing my husband. The silence that followed was long. Then she said, very quietly, oh God. We spent 2 hours on the phone with her that evening. Her, me, Grant, and eventually HR at Grant's firm on a separate call, and then eventually a lawyer. Tyler had done this before, not just with his name, apparently, but systematically, using Grant's identity with at least 2 clients he found attractive over the past 3 years, barring the name, the professional credibility, the divorce backstory he'd apparently workshopped into a whole convincing fiction. The firm launched an internal investigation that same week. Tyler was placed on leave within 48 hours. By the time Tamsin's attorney got involved, there was enough documented evidence to make the situation very clear and very serious for Tyler specifically. Tamsin and I spoke a few more times after that. She was not what I expected. She genuinely believed him. She'd built something real, or what felt real to her, on a foundation that someone else had constructed and then handed to a liar to stand in. She was due in 8 weeks. She was terrified. I won't pretend I felt nothing complicated about those conversations. I did, but she hadn't known, and she was alone in a way that was not her fault. We don't keep in touch now. But I hope she's okay. I mean that. The baby shower, for what it's worth, did eventually happen. 2 weeks later, same friends, same yellow decorations, same cupcake tower. My best friend retaped the streamers. My mother-in-law moved the centerpiece 2 inches left and then 2 inches right and then back again. Grant sat in the corner looking a little overwhelmed by all the gift bags, which is his natural state at parties, and at one point I caught him across the room and he mouthed, "You okay?" And I nodded, because I was. Not because nothing had happened. Something had happened. Something that could have broken us if we'd let it, if we'd been less solid, if 7 years had built us something flimsier. It shook me. I won't pretend it didn't. That 20 minutes alone, in my living room, holding a stranger's phone number while my husband was out getting our baby's celebration cake. I don't have a clean word for what that felt like, but I knew him. And knowing someone, really knowing them, in the Thursday evening typhoid inner arm scar way, turns out to be a different thing than just believing them. Belief can be manufactured. Tyler proved that. Knowledge is harder to fake. Our daughter was born 11 weeks later. She came into the world noisy and opinionated, and she has Grant's exact same stubborn lower lip, which I find both annoying and completely devastating in the best way. He cried again. Of course he did. I've thought a lot about what would have happened if I had just believed her. Not believed Tyler, he was never even in the room. I mean, believed the version of my life that Tamsin's presence implied. The version where 7 years meant nothing. Where every Thursday evening and every waiting room and every whatever happens, we're okay, was performance. That version was available to me. It was right there, offered up by a stranger in a navy dress with a very convincing list of details. And here's what I keep coming back to. Details can be stolen. That's the thing nobody tells you. A name, a scar description, a physical address, a professional title, none of that actually belongs to the person who carries it. Tyler borrowed Grant's name for years. He borrowed his credibility, his reputation, the trust that Grant had spent a decade building in his field. He handed it to Tamsin like it was his to give, and she had no reason not to accept it. What Tyler couldn't steal was the texture of an actual life. He couldn't know that Grant drives 10 minutes out of his way because of something I said once, offhandedly years ago, that I had already forgotten by the next morning. He couldn't know the specific order in which Grant tells a story when he's nervous. Broad strokes first, then circles back for the detail he forgot. He couldn't know that Grant's scar is horizontal and on his inner arm, not diagonal and outer, because those are the kinds of things you only know if you were there, if you've touched it, if you've heard the actual story, which has nothing to do with camping, because Grant finds camping, in his words, a voluntary return to suffering. I didn't ask Tamsin the questions I asked because I was playing a game. I asked because I realized, sitting in my own living room while everyone looked at me, that the truth was inside what I already knew. I just had to trust that what I knew was real. That's the hard part. Not the confrontation. The confrontation was almost easy once I got there. The hard part was those 20 minutes alone before Grant walked through the door. That's where the real test was. Not do I believe him, but do I trust what 7 years actually built? Tyler's choices caught up with him. Not because the universe has a ledger. I don't think it works that cleanly, but because shortcuts compound. Every time he borrowed someone else's identity instead of building his own, every time he let a lie do the work that honesty should have done, he was borrowing against a debt that had no forgiveness clause. Tamsin deserved the truth from the start. His firm deserved the truth. The system held, eventually, because other people had done the harder work of documenting and following up and not letting things quietly disappear. And Thompson. I think about her. She was deceived just as completely as I almost was. She built something real on a foundation someone else poisoned. That's not weakness. That's what happens when someone is deliberately, strategically misled by a person with no particular conscience about the cost to other people. The difference between us wasn't that I was smarter or more suspicious. It was that I had 7 years of actual evidence, and I chose to look at it instead of look away. That's the only thing I'd pass on to anyone in a moment like that one. Not trust your gut. Your gut is just pattern recognition dressed up in feeling. What I mean is, trust what you've actually built. Trust the specific, ordinary, unremarkable evidence of a real life. The Thursday evenings. The allergy to fish. The scar in the right place. The real things are harder to fake than people think.